But it's always good.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you.
Oh, my pleasure. Me too.
Hi, Commissioner, how are you?
I made it.
Good.
The only thing I don't have is a holder for my, but I'll find a way to prop it up.
Okay.
Or use my phone or do something. And,
Bruno is here to assist. I'm sure he'll figure it out.
okay. Hi. Come help me set up. How are you? I can't complain. Being that I got stuck behind a train for 20 minutes, it's the longest freight train I ever saw. I thought I was going to be late. So I called Anthony and I left a message for Bill.
Look, you're the first one here.
I know. I got my iPad, but we don't have a folder for it. Oh, hold on. Okay. Let's see. That's my iPad. And there's a plug. Oh, no. This is where I said. That'll be fine. Okay, now what I gotta do is.
Yeah, just give,
Let me put my phone.
6:45 will start.
It's right back here. Low battery. No close. Is it hopefully charging?
Yeah, it's
Okay. Oh, that means it's gonna die. No, I unplug my phone. Okay. December 7th, confirm?
I don't know.
I don't know the birth, I don't date of birth. Okay, I don't know who you're gonna put my date of birth if they want. Okay. Put this up. That's the whole story. You know where it's coming from. We'll come back and fix it.
Camera is there, so.
There's only one item, right? No, there's three. That's it. Oh, that's the sale of the million, that's number two. There's another one. Good to go. This is what this is. This should be more than me. All right. One is the resolution, they were going to approve the award of invitation to negotiate for the sale of the property. Right, firm, 28 development partners, we saw pictures and everything. Same thing. Good to see you. Ben, hey, how you doing? I'm doing. How you doing? Gabby, is she here that I thank her? Yes. So, of course. Okay. I just want to make sure, take it easy. Take it easy. Listen, do you want me shot? Exactly. Here comes Todd, and then I want to see.
Dominic becoming to me. Next week, Bernie.
Okay. Todd, I do not expect you to eat Yeah. When he's ready to be announced, I will announce it. Only two he wants to retire as quickly as he can.
Hey, how are you? Good. You want the form now? Your form? I'm supposed to bring something to you.
You guys lost the original?
We never got the original.
So the original, you can take that signature, obviously, put it on the internet or some other TV.
No, we have the copy. The copy's on the internet. I mean, why is that?
You're the one that catches.
I know. Because they gave, when I built that door. At the last meeting, I signed it. I signed it. Yes. And you mentioned that somebody.
I thought I gave you this here. I don't know.
Oh.
I think it's the original. But Jenny's saying that she didn't get the copy. Did you make a copy of it?
Okay.
It was in black pen, right?
Whatever it was at our website, yes.
I know it.
I'll tell you something. Billy, you could hear this too. What? I had a hot water heater installed. Okay. Plumbing guy put it in. This year?
Yeah, I should have brought the one down. Sorry about that. Try to go online real quick. I'm not sure. For sure.
So, the electric, the plumbing went right through. The hot water heater required a 30 amp in my box, and we had 20 amp. This was a biggie. You would have to go to 30 amp and put it in any test. Yeah, that was the everything broke. So it's the only thing that says that I can stop the look at one that he- how it was.
It doesn't matter. Here, this was the one before, so it's up to you.
But it's all right. You want.
I'm muted. Muted. Mr. Furness is on?
A little bit. The same amount of electricity, so when it's a big one. Oh. It'll close the circuit down, have too many people. In the high rise, you have to come to the city and ask permission, and they have to look at it. Okay? And can you just disconnect the water? Electricity saving devices. That
Eddie, can you hear me?
The new appliances requires 30.
You're muted, Eddie. Can you hear me?
So that's good. Yeah. It's upgraded.
Is that a yes?
Built into the
Yes? Okay.
You know, it's like a car. You don't realize it's going bad.
Yeah, can you say something,
But
Eddie?
every day it's going to be.
Testing 1, 2, 3. Testing 1, 2, 3.
Perfect, thank you.
that I'm putting you on the calendar, but it never happened.
Well, maybe we.
Let's give it something. That way you make it.
Are we ready? Ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to call to order this special city commission meeting tonight for December 15th, 2022 at 7 p.m. Can we please have roll call?
Commissioner Drosky,
Here.
Commissioner Parnas,
Here.
Commissioner Preston,
Here.
Vice Mayor Huda,
Here.
Mayor Dan.
Here. Please stand for a moment of silence and our national anthem. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We have approval of tonight's agenda, December 15th. Motion to approve. Second. Motion by Commissioner Preston, second by Vice Mayor Huda. All in favor, say aye. Aye. New meeting.
For those attending via Zoom online, wishing to speak under public comment or on an item that's open to public input, please click raise hand at the bottom of the participants tab, and your audio will be unmuted when you are recognized by Mayor Dan. For those attending via Zoom by telephone, please press *9 to raise your hand, and your audio will be unmuted when you are recognized by Mayor Dan. Please make sure your audio is unmuted on your end. I press the person. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anthony Soroka, City Attorney for the record. Item number 1 on tonight's special commission agenda is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, approving the award of invitation to negotiate number 22-41-PC for the sale of city property located at 1045 Southwest 11th Way to the top-ranked firm, MBA Development Partners of Florida, LLC, approving the key business terms for the purchase and sale contract, which shall be subject to referendum approval, providing for implementation and an effective date.
Thank you, Mayor. On December 6th, we brought forward to the City Commission a ranking and the recommendation for approval of the #1 ranked firm, MBA, for the sale of 1045 Southwest 11th Way. That item was approved by the City Commission. At that meeting, we discussed the necessity and the timeliness of coming before you this evening to negotiate some key business terms that were required in order to ensure that we would have the appropriate ballot language that needs to be transmitted to the supervisor of elections by the end of this year, no later than I believe January 10th is what it is. January 1st. So I want to thank our city attorney, Anthony Soroka, our staff, Chris Morey, as well as our consultant, Ken Kresnaw, and the team from MBA for turning this around so quickly and getting that in before you tonight. So we have a brief presentation to go through those key business terms with you tonight. And then the item after that, which we'll discuss separately, would be to incorporate some of those key business terms into the ballot language for your consideration and approval.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. This is on. Yeah. Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Thank you, David. So for the record, Ken Krasnow from Colliers International. As David said, we're going to give a brief overview of the key business terms in the letter of intent that's been provided to you, as well as the referendum language. So again, we're going to recap that City Commission meeting, as David just said, on December 6th. we brought forth the evaluation committee's rankings, the unanimous consensus. I'm going to just remind you about the project that we're here talking about. Again, spend a few minutes on key business terms and then the referendum. So on this December 6th, the rankings were approved, and MBA Development Partners was awarded the invitation to negotiate. And as David said, city attorney and staff themselves have been working with the MBA team to iron out some of the key business terms in the letter of intent. Next slide is the project. So just to reiterate and remind you again, what MBA is going to be building, a project that is approximately $180 million of total cost. Starting at the top left there with the 7-story, 60,000 square foot office building anchored by the healthcare company that we discussed at the last meeting. The next one is workforce housing, approximately 120 units on 8 stories. The bottom there, a 4-story, 105 key room hotel, Marriott branded hotel. And then at the bottom is the 1-story event center of about 12,000 square feet. And then retail and restaurants make up the balance of the space for another 7,000 feet, so approximately 20,000 feet on the ground for the community and the residents and the tenants of this project. Next are the key business terms. So again, we are talking about just under 4 acres, 3.75 acres, 1045 Southwest 11th Way. MBA Development Partners, as we said, is the chosen firm. The purchase price for the land will be $6.5 million, plus an additional $7.5 million in public improvements to area infrastructure, roadways, entranceways, etc., and parks and community space, specifically the park across the street. Currently, there's about $105,000 in deposit, up the $25,000 that was required as part of their ITN submittal, and another $80,000 for the work to be done to get us through the referendum period. There will be an additional deposit that will be put up in the amount of 5% of the purchase price, or approximately $325,000, that will be payable to the city within 3 business days after the referendum presumably passes. There will be a due diligence period of approximately 60 days from the execution of the purchase and sale agreement. So again, today we are going over the key business terms. Pending your approval, Anthony and team will work on a detailed purchase and sale agreement, which again will be brought back to you for approval. So they will have due diligence of 60 days from the execution and the approval of the purchase and sale agreement from commission. Within 120 days from the referendum approval, they will submit a site plan. So again, there's a significant amount of pressure on them to make sure that this project moves and moves quickly. So 120 days from referendum approval, a site plan shall be brought back for approval. And then, as you can see there, the closing will occur 60 days following the final non-appealable site plan approval by the city of Deerfield Beach, as well as the final site plan and plat approvals, county, etc., that need to get done. So those are the key business terms. As I said, obviously there's a lot more detail that will be ironed out in the purchase and sale agreement that will be brought back to you for your approval and consideration. And then next is the referendum language. So again, based on the key business terms and the project that we just talked about, the referendum language. I will read this, but this is shall the city of Deerfield Beach sell the approximately 3.75 acre property located at 1045 Southwest 11th Way to NBA Development Partners of Florida LLC for $6.5 million for the purpose of creating a multi-use development with workforce housing, retail and restaurant space, a hotel, green space, and other public amenities. And the public will have the ability to vote yes for the sale of the property or no, vote against the sale of the property. So those are the two items being brought before you today to approve the referendum language and to approve the key business terms so that we can move into the purchase and sale. With that, happy to answer any questions or discuss any of the issues before you. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Drosky.
Thank you, Mayor. I have a couple comments. Obviously, we're just approving the key business terms tonight, so the devil will be in the details when it comes to the purchase and sale agreement. So I'm going to take a deeper dive when it comes to that document to approval before. But some of the things that I want to see in the purchase and sale agreement when we get into the weeds on this is one, a better definition of what the public improvements and enhancements are going to entail. I understand that it includes 7.5 million, but I don't want there to be some sleight of hand, and I'm not suggesting that there would be, but that all that money get incorporated into, like overhead or payroll or other. I want to see that go as much into bricks and mortar as possible. So if we can better define that term in the PSA and what that money is to go for, that way everybody's under the understanding of what it's for. Whether we want to put in the agreement or not, whether it stays in that area or not, I think it's a policy decision for the city, but I think obviously it makes the most sense. You have Mayo Howard Park, pardon me, across the street from there, plus any roadway improvements. I think that 7.5 million could be spent pretty quick. So I think if we're going to build this premier center, you might as well have the best entryway, and features and roadways and parks surrounding it, because otherwise I think kind of defeats the purpose. So that's my first comment. My second comment is, I did speak to some before, and the 5% for the deposit seems a little light to me. I understand that there's the down payment and the referendum as well, so it's actually a little bit more than that, but maybe we can work on that in the PSA as well. Perhaps we can finesse something with the community enhancement piece. If there's 7.5 million there, then maybe we can put a deposit on that. I mean, I know there's a lot of moving pieces to this. There's financing and capital and cash flow. I understand all those moving pieces, so I don't want to hamper one piece unnecessarily, but I do want to see more skin in the game. So
we have had the discussion, and there is language that that we are talking about where we will have a discussion about additional deposits, specifically with regards to the 7.5 of community improvement. So there, just like there's skin in the game on the 6.5, there will be skin in the game on the 7.5.
Okay, and that'll be in the PSA too?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. The last item that I have is the more sensitive one, but I think it has to be, at least asked, for tonight. And it's no offense against anybody, just me doing my job up here to vet this. Mr. Caprini is kind of the face of this project. But there are, if you do just a regular search, there are some claims against him. I don't know if it's the same Caprini or not, if it's a different one, but just some explanation. There's some small credit card claims. There's some small condominium lien foreclosure claims. There's a bankruptcy as well. I just want to make sure that we're partnering with the right group, the right face for the city, because if I don't bring this up, somebody else is. And so I just want to get ahead of it.
That's fair. They're here and they can probably answer any questions with regard to that. although you've seen Mr. Caprini talk and maybe be the face of he is not the what I would call the equity of the development group. So, MBA Partners is a joint venture between MBA, which is Robert Sherman, who's a well-known and reputable investor, and Hensel Phelps Capital Partners as well. Hensel Phelps is a $6 billion, one of the largest construction firms in the world, and they are the majority equity and stakeholder in this project. So there are significant capital partners so Mario is a spokesperson and is a partner in the project. But the capital that is required to get this project built, majority of which is coming from Hensel Phelps. We've also done significant amount of due diligence on the financing that they've already lined up and committed based on the tenants, the Marriott, the healthcare, et cetera. So a lot of the capital has already been committed, but clearly Hensel Phelps is a $6 billion, one of the largest construction companies in the world. That's the real equity and the real capital and the real strength behind this development team.
No, I understand, but this is going to referendum and funny things happen in elections. So I bring it now because I think you better hear it from me than from someone else later.
Commissioner Parnas?
Yeah, can we have the referendum piece put back up there?
I just want to point out, I can read the next item into the record, but the next item is really the referendum piece. So do you want me to read that in the record so you can have a discussion?
Yes, please.
About that? Okay.
Yeah.
So item number 2 is a resolution of the City Commission of the City of Deerfield Beach, Florida, submitting to the city electors a referendum question regarding the sale of approximately 3.75 acres of real property owned by the city located at 1045 Southwest 11th Way pursuant to section 7.092 of the city charter, providing for a referendum election to be held in conjunction with the regular municipal election on March 14, 2023, providing for requisite ballot language, providing procedure for balloting, providing for notice, providing for implementation and effective date.
Okay, what I wanted was you had the language of the referendum. We put that, is that up there? Okay, question to the city attorney, to the mayor, and to these people. Shall the city of Deerfield Beach sell the approximate 3.7 property located, et cetera, to whom Partners of Florida for $6.5 million for the purpose of creating a multi-use development with workforce housing, retail, and restaurant space, or hotel, green space, and other public amenities? I think if we're going to get the voters to approve, maybe there should be another paragraph in there what that $7 million is going to do. $6 million is going to the city. What will the $7 million do for the public to get their support? I think if that language was added, would it help get the referendum passed or not? I don't know. I'm not experienced in referendums, but perhaps the city attorney, the mayor, or you can address that. I'd like to see it passed.
I'll take the first stab at that. So, we prepared language. I know that their team prepared language. They have a well-experienced company that they're working with to assist them with their referendum process. So I did work with their language and add some words that I thought were key in business terms. We didn't include the $7.5 million. It's not necessarily the purchase price for the property. Keep in mind also, Commissioner, we're limited by state law. We only have 75 words to work with. So, adding another paragraph, we had to kind of pick and choose, what language to use and what not to use. And that $7.5 million hasn't been fully fleshed out in terms of what exactly that will go to yet, as you heard earlier. But I suspect in speaking with their PR company that, they're going to include all of that. And, we know as well in education materials and things leading up to the referendum. So that will be made clear to the electorate.
So what you're saying to me is that there'll be a selling effort other than the wording on the referendum.
Yes, they, as I think we mentioned at the meeting on the 6th, as part of their team, they hired the merchant strategy group, which is, you know, a renowned polling and public engagement firm. And so they've got a full campaign, basically, you know, ready to go with mailings and phone calls and flyers and information.
Things
And
like.
I'm sure that
employment,
7.5 part, all of that will be part of that.
All right,
So this
that's
is
what I
just
was
a-
looking for.
Yeah.
If I may, Mayor?
Yes.
I also wanted to point out that, you know, it is the intent, as mentioned earlier, that we are going to negotiate a purchase and sale agreement that you're going to approve that's going to be available, you know, for public inspection as well, with a lot more of the details, some of which we spoke about tonight, you know, for transparency purposes. And so the public is fully informed. That will be a public document that will be available, you know, for some time before that referendum election.
Thank you. Any other comments from the board? Anyone from the public care to comment on this item? Let's see, the hands raised online. Let's see. Here, and we close it to the public.
Motion to approve item 1.
Second,
Mr. Strogan.
Sorry, I just want to make one more point so it's clear for the commission and for the record. You are not approving the project tonight. The purchase and sale agreement, you will not be approving the project. Ultimately, the project will go through the appropriate land use, zoning, you know, and all the public hearings that go along with it. So I just want to make that clear for the record. That is not included in the letter of intent. It will not be in the purchase and sale agreement, and that's pursuant to state law. So I just wanted to get that out there for the public and for your benefit, for informational purposes only. Thank you.
Thank you. We have a motion in a second. We have a roll call, please.
Commissioner Drosky,
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas,
yes,
Commissioner Preston,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Huda,
Yes.
Mayor Dan.
Yes.
Okay, you're now on the second item, which is the referendum question.
Any further comments from the board on this? Anyone from the public care to comment on this item? Not seeing anybody, we close it to the public.
motion to approve. Second,
Motion by Commissioner Parnas, seconded by Commissioner Preston. A roll call, please.
Commissioner Drosky,
Yes.
Commissioner Parnas,
yes,
Commissioner Preston,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Huda,
Yes.
Mayor Dan.
Yes.
We are now on comments by administration and legal. No comments from legal tonight.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
We're on item number 3. It's part of the city manager's comments. So this is the discussion regarding the Pier Restaurant lease.
Thank you, City Attorney. Good evening, Commission. David Sanchez, City Manager. For my discussion items this evening, I want to spend some time with the Commission to discuss the current Pier Restaurant lease, excuse me. I'd like to thank Chris Morey for the work that she's done to prepare the presentation. Next slide, please. So just to remind the Commission that currently we have the first term of the Pier Lease Restaurant that will expire on April 30th, 2023. So it's been close to a decade since the City Commission has approved that lease agreement. And what does the renewal moving forward look like, if anything? And so to make, obviously, the City Commission aware that initial term is coming up, and I'm going to need some direction from you on how you'd like me to proceed. There is a 5-year renewal option for this restaurant lease. And if we do that, then the Deerfield Beach Cafe would remain in place as is until 2028. So, I might be able to, with the assistance of the city attorney's office, negotiate a new lease rate at that point. I think it's fair to say that the market probably has drastically changed in the past decade, not only in terms of the restaurant market itself, but the value of the lease that we have, just to make the city commission aware of that. And if we do renew the lease, we obviously would maintain continuity of operations as they currently are today. Or the next option really for the city commission, since we are for renewal, is to explore the current market a little bit further. And the way in which we would have to go about that is we would have to release a competitive solicitation, similar to what we did over 10 years ago. And we would be able to gauge the market, understand the new market conditions, and potentially look at new lease components that I will go into further detail here in just a minute. Obviously, if we did a competitive solicitation, not only would we expect to see new restaurateurs to show interest in the lease, but we would of course be able to still include the current restaurateur. So they would not be obviously excluded from this, and they would have the same ability and chance at this as anyone. And of course, you've got their track record and the experience with them over the past 10 years. So you know how we would obviously relate that into the evaluation of their proposal. If the city commission provides, direction that, hey, let's explore the market a little bit, it doesn't really necessarily mean that we're going to be, losing the current tenant, but we do want to see what else is out there. There's really two options for me, which would be to terminate that lease at April 30th, or I also have the ability, administratively, to extend that lease for 180 days. So why is that important? Well, if this lease is up on April 30th, 2023, we still need to go through the procurement process. And if a new restaurant was selected, that we would have some downtime as the one restaurant moves out and a new restaurant moves in. And so that additional time to get us through the procurement and allow, if it was a situation where we had a new restaurateur go in there, it would provide us a little bit of a shorter time frame that the restaurant would be unoccupied. But nevertheless, I just want to make it clear that I think if you did give me direction to put out another solicitation for the restaurant lease, then I would expect that the restaurant would be down for some length of time. Obviously, can't say what that is because not only the factors that I've given to you, but what does that transition plan that we will receive from the new restaurateur look like? Or even with the current restaurateur, with some of these things that we're going to discuss, that I'd like to have you guys opine upon. They may need to make some changes to the restaurant too, in terms of how they operate with the current restaurateur. So all things to consider. We'll wrap up with these questions at the end. Next slide, please. So based on some of the feedback that we've received, not only from the current leasing, but also from the restaurant patrons themselves and from area restaurateurs who have shown interest in our location, we were asking you to consider three different things. And the first one would be to include the observation deck into the lease space. The observation deck, as a frame of reference, I'll show you that. I think you all know what that is, but for the public's betterment, I'll make sure to show that. Also to allow the fixed roof over the outdoor boardwalk patio. So similar to what we see at our adjacent restaurants or just down the boardwalk, which would be JB's and Oceans 2, 3, 4, something similar to that. And then to allow for the sale of liquor is something else to consider. These three factors are, again, based off of feedback that we've received, that they have said, these are things that could enhance the restaurant experience and the quality of the restaurant itself. Next slide, please. So again, just kind of taking a look at the visual of the current conditions of the Pier restaurant. Obviously, we have the outdoor seating area, just a trip down memory lane. I mean, the current restaurateur has asked us if she could, do a permanent canopy structure there. And, at the time, because we did not include that amenity in the original RFP, it was opined by the city attorney at the time that allowing that would substantially deviate from what was approved by commission. And there were other factors, I believe, that various commissioners on the days at the time felt that it might not be appropriate. But again, wanted to just make sure to bring that forward to you for consideration. Obviously, it being quite some time since the original lease was approved. Next slide, please. Here's the interior of the building. And then one more screenshot of from the west facing east there on the right-hand side. So you can see what the interior of the restaurant currently looks like, the outside. Just familiarizing yourself with that. Next slide, please. So firstly, the observation deck in its current condition. You see the picture there. It is a passive public observation amenity for the public. We recently did some, whoops, we'll get back there. Again. So obviously right now, this is a passive public observation amenity, and you can see that it's empty. It's very common to see it empty and unused. The cost of fixing the fixed roof upgrade that the CRA did was $153,000. It was hopes that if we went ahead and covered that and see more people up there. That just has not really come to fruition. We've also started to try to do rentals of that. We've had only 4 rentals in the past year, yielding about $2,000 in revenue. Next slide, please. Just to give a frame of reference of what elevated deck seating looks like in other places and how those areas are activated. Here's a picture of the quarter deck in Dania Beach. This is right next to their pier in Dania. And then there's the beach house in Pompano Beach and what that upstairs dining experience looks like there. Next slide, please. So I think it's important to, and frankly, brainstorming on what all the pros and cons are related to this specific amenity. You may think of others or have a different opinion, but as we have looked at this, obviously the pros from our perspective, from staff's perspective, is that it would add approximately 1,300 square feet of additional restaurant space. The activation would increase this underutilized asset. The leasing would be responsible for the regular cleaning and maintenance. The venue itself could enhance the beach tourism destination and experience. Activation of the area would improve crime prevention through environmental design, or what we call SEPTED compliance. In other words, by activating an area and having more people there, you are less likely to have criminal type of activities or illicit activities in those areas. Additionally, it'd be a larger overall service area for attracting more restaurateurs through a competitive solicitation. But what are the cons? What are the cons? The cons would be the reduction of that passive public space that we currently have. But we think that we could incorporate into a lease agreement some public use restrictions and entitlements for the public on that. And then, of course, it would be an alteration from its original intended use as approved by the CRA board in this commission. Next slide, please. So going back to the discussion about the awning, just to kind of compare, obviously in these two pictures, we have Oceans 2, 3, 4 and JB's on the beach and what their covered structures currently look like. Next slide, please. This is just another depiction of that, trying to just show the entire boardwalk area of those restaurants, and it's the continuity of it all. Thank you. So what are the pros and cons here? 740 square feet of outdoor dining space would be permanently sheltered from the weather. The leasee would be responsible for that capital improvement, and there would be obviously no cost to the city by doing so. The leasee would be responsible for the regular cleaning and maintenance. The venue, that additional venue would enhance the beach tourism destination and attraction. It would be a more reliable use of the outdoor service area, which would attract an interest from more restaurateurs. And having a permanent structure there could clearly define the boundaries of that outdoor seating area and prevent what I would call encroachment into the walkable area, which we unfortunately see today. What are the cons there? Obviously, the potential alteration of the pier building and its original architectural style and what was originally envisioned by the City Commission. Liquor sales, so this is a little bit of a shorter list. I'm sorry I don't have any pretty pictures for liquor sales here, but the pros, obviously, we believe that you're going to get the restaurant itself would have a greater revenue, and therefore we would see a higher rental rate or lease rate if you allowed liquor sales into the lease arrangement. Liquor sales would be consistent with all the restaurants in the area around us, and it would definitely attract a wider variety of restaurants in our opinion. The cons here is the perception of liquor service not being consistent with a family-friendly amenity. Just a reminder that the original envision of the restaurant really was burgers and fries, hot dogs and cokes, grab and go, and that is a little different than I think what we have today, as it's more of a sit-down diner experience. And they do serve beer and wine there, but that is a very probably limited thing that they do, and not the most popular items on their menu. So a summary of the considerations that I'd like to get some direction from the City Commission is renew the lease or test the market. And if we are going to test the market, would you be interested in including in the RFP the inclusion of the observation deck as restaurant space, allowing for a fixed roof over the outdoor boardwalk patio, and allowing liquor sales? And that concludes my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions and participate in any discussion you'd like to have.
Thank you, Commissioner Parnas and Commissioner Preston.
Having many years' experience managing and owning a restaurant and nightclub in New York. Couple of questions. Who owns the equipment in the restaurant? Does the city own it, or does the restaurateur own it?
Generally speaking, I believe we purchased a lot of the equipment in there.
So that's ours. Like
Yeah, yes.
the walk-in refrigerators, the Ansel system, et cetera, the permanent stuff.
Yes.
Okay. My opinion is that we should go out into the marketplace. And my reason is that the beach is a very popular area. It could be better. I've eaten in the restaurant. I've eaten in many of the restaurants. Competition's good for the soul. I think a fresh start with an idea of growing. I like the idea of the covered patio and enhancing the restaurant. I think it can be a very good success and moneymaker, not only for the city, but the enjoyment of the tourists and residents who come to the beach for a day and have a place right there by the beach to dine, get a cold beer or soda, etc. I think it's an amenity that's necessary that I grew up with. I grew up in Brighton Beach, Coney Island, and on the boardwalk, we had a boardwalk that ran from Brighton Beach all the way into Coney Island. I used to walk when I was 8 years old, 1.5 miles to Nathan's to get a hot dog. I think it just enhances the experience of the beach without being overly expensive. You want expensive, you can go to many restaurants that are sit-down, expensive restaurants, but this is to facilitate people on the beach. My next question is, if you expand it, where do you park cars? Has any consideration being given to expanding parking around the restaurant?
You want me to answer that now?
Yeah.
Commissioner? None at this time. We're very limited in the real estate that the city owns and our ability to use that real estate to create more parking.
Okay, it would be a help if we could. But I like the idea of going out on the marketplace and seeing what other people have as plans for that restaurant. I've managed everything from Lindy's in New York to donut shops and back again. I own my own nightclub and restaurant in New York. It excites me when a new thing comes in, not just for the newness of it, but people who want something different. Maybe they've been going to the beach restaurant for 10 years and something new would excite them, where maybe they're bored of the sameness. Besides, we don't know if we go out and solicit what kind of restaurant, who they are, what they're gonna offer, until they do. You can't be specific in saying, I want restaurants are only gonna charge $4.50 for a burger, $2 for a hot dog, and then call it an improvement. It would be bidding on the price of the same hot dog. I like the idea of going out and getting new ideas in, new concepts in, and perhaps improve it, which would do what? A, it would make the people happier that go to the beach, if they have a place they like. And B, means more money for the city. The more money we make, the less we have to charge in taxes to our residents. So I think it's a good idea that we go out and hear what the marketplace wants to do with the place. Then we can make a decision.
Commissioner Preston.
Thank you, Mayor.
As I was looking at this, just individually speaking, I'm more leaning towards, a renewal of the lease, and then checking all of the rest of the consideration, including observation, then checking allowing a fixed roof over the outdoor boardwalk patio, yes. Allowing liquor sales, yes. I was on the commission when this was awarded to this restaurateur. And there was restrictions, and so I think that they've kind of been hamstringed for a long time. I think if we were to open it up, they could do better, and in the end, the city could end up doing better. In regards to parking, we just redid that parking lot in which there were spaces taken away. And we have to remember the parking lot initial, many years ago, when that was for the parking lot was for pure fishing. And we have to keep that in mind no matter what we do. I don't think that there's any room to expand that because we just did that a few years back and we took spaces away. And so the pier fishing, that entire family has suffered because of when the city changed the parking layout. So I think that I don't know if there's any considerations that we can do with that. Because it would be redoing it again. And if we redo it, we can't take spaces away. We would actually have to look at adding them. And So I don't even know if that can be done, but I'm certainly, I'm in agreement. I think this is not good that we should redo this.
Vice Mayor Hudak, Commissioner Drosky.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't, first of all, I have no issues with the current leasing. I think she's a wonderful person. I know we had some challenges when I first got elected, but I think those have been ironed out. So I still feel that we should go out to market. I think it's been 10 years that they've had the lease. I understand they've been hamstrung because of what we wanted in that, what the former commission wanted in that area. And I think it's a great idea to explore what other options we do have available. It's not saying that they will not have the ability to rebid on it. I do like the idea of incorporating the observation deck as well as the covered walk. I think that's a great idea. What are the current hours of operation of the restaurant?
That's a good question, Commissioner. I'm going to get that for
I
you.
believe it's 11 or 12. No later than 12. If I remember.
Yeah, because to me, I'm not sure about the sale of liquor. I'm actually leaning towards a no on that myself, because again, we are family friendly beach. There are plenty of places to purchase liquor there. I would rather it not wind up being a hangout, but a place for families to enjoy a great meal throughout the day. Okay. But why would we have to wait until April in order to start sending out solicitations?
We would not have to wait that long, Vice Mayor. The current lease expires at that date.
Right. I know that.
Upon direction from the city commission, we'll expeditiously move towards getting a competitive solicitation out. But we would not have the solicitation process completed, negotiated, and awarded by April 30th. Nonetheless, if somebody else was successful, they would not have the time to make any changes to the restaurant that they needed to make in order to be up and running. So that's why I say that extension to 180 days. I can gauge that as we continue to move forward to ensure that we, to the extent that we possibly can, have continuity of operations of restaurants there.
And I think that's great flexibility. So I would be in favor of that as well.
Thank you, Commissioner Drosky.
Thank you. I think we need to go out and test the market, not as an indictment on the current operator, but because I don't have any objection to the observation deck, the covered walkway, or the liquor sales. And you cannot, my understanding is you cannot renew the current lease by adding those 3 new additional terms into it. So I think we have no choice, if you're in favor of those additional options, to go out to test the market. And as the Vice Mayor correctly indicated, that doesn't prevent the current operator from bidding again under these new scenarios. In fact, she may very well want these additional amenities as part of the lease. So I think it'd probably be a good thing. But to incorporate those, I think we have to go out to the market. So that's why I would be in favor of that option.
Thank you. Much like Commissioner Preston, I was up here when this first was brought up. My recollection of this is a little different. I disagree that they've been hamstrung. The rules were the rules. We gave the parameters for everybody who's bidding on the job. Once they got in there, they started to whine and say, we want to change things. And that wasn't fair to the city, because the city said, here are your rules. People that might have been a better fit for that location did not come forward because they didn't feel the space was there. So for us to have made a decision based on who was there, and they said, yes, we can make it based on this. You go back to the original renderings, what that restaurant was supposed to be, compared to what it is now, and I'm a little disappointed it's not in this, I'll be honest with you. I think I had the original renderings up in my office. It is not at all what we were presenting. It was to be a grab and go sandwich place, if you remember. It was supposed to have kind of a more modern, updated feel of what was there previously, which was, I don't want to, I hate to use this term, but I'm going to, is greasy spoon type of feel where it's burgers, fries, grab a basket of fries up there in the window, grab a hot dog and move on. That was something big that we kind of wanted to keep that feel. That ship has sailed 10 years ago. So I don't think they've ever been hamstrung. I think they got in there and quite frankly, I always felt the city was sold a little bit of bill of goods. I think they've done well there. And I think they operate a fine business. I am not opposed to alcohol sales there. I understand we're trying to remain family friendly, but to me, the early serving beer and wine, someone having a Bloody Mary on a Sunday morning over there on a beach is fine with me when you got a guy that can probably have 8 beers right there at the same time. So I'm not opposed to it now. I think we need to kind of look at or have a fresher look at what we've done there. I do believe the ship has sailed in the fact of returning it back to a little simple hamburger shack. It's not going to happen. One of the concerns has been that we didn't necessarily want to be putting something in there that's going to compete with JB's and with Oceans. But I think the times have changed. I think we need to look at it a little bit differently. And I think we give whoever wants to come forward to the city every opportunity to run an establishment correctly. If you look at Oceans, for example, they serve alcohol. I don't think there's an issue with what goes on there. I don't think they're known for being a rowdy crowd, or I don't think there's any kind of issues that, you know, when people say, well, alcohol sales are going to bring problems there. I don't think they have those restaurants necessarily have those reputations. Maybe across the way they might. Certainly I understand, but I think any good proprietor of a business can regulate, you know, make sure they're not over serving, make sure that the element we want is supposed to be there. I think we need to give the opportunity for anybody who's coming in there, the opportunity to succeed, which I think alcohol sales is a big key part of it. And any restaurant's going to tell you that's a big key if you know to operate there. I do like the fact that the current operator will get that opportunity on level playing field with everybody else out there to compete with us. I think that's the right thing to do. I think putting in the outside seating, which was originally not part of the plan. And if you go back to the original renderings of what that pier was supposed to be, we were supposed to have these giant sails. As you came around the S-curves, with some big sails that were crossing over, much like what you see in Pompano over on the, as you go over Atlantic, as you're going over the intercoastal. We were told, well, we can't do that. They're not going to pull up the hurricanes or anything like that. Obviously, Pompano can do it for whatever reason we could. So if you look at the original renderings, what was intended to be there, it would have changed the aesthetics of what we were going for. Now I think we need to be more open-minded. I'm a little concerned about the upper level going towards a restaurant. I think that space, even today when you go there, it's not very clear that that's open for the public to be able to go up there. And yes, we haven't had a lot of rentals because it is a little bare bones and simplistic in what's there. I would like to see maybe having the restaurant have the ability to use that for special occasions and different things that they want to do there, but maybe not on a permanent basis. For me, I have a little bit of a problem with the city relinquishing its rights to that upper area, in my opinion. So while I'm open to changing that, I'm certainly in favor of an expanded covered seating area outside. I am in favor of moving it towards alcohol, and I am in favor of putting it on the open market, see what we have. And that's just my feelings on Commissioner Preston, Commissioner Vice President.
Yes, Mayor. The reason I said that they were somewhat hamstrung because a lot of some of the points that are on the summary is some of the points that they brought up, like liquor sales, like the observation. The fixed roof over the outdoor boardwalk. So some of these things that we have here that have already been identified is actually some of the considerations that they brought forward that they could not grow their business like yours. So that's why I say they were hamstrung in that way. But you know, again, you know, going out testing the market, there's nothing wrong with that. But I just think that we also know what we have with the current tenant. We know what we're getting. And also, when you test the market, it is in fact that, a test. You don't know what you're going to get. And hopefully what you're going to get is something that is going to be in line with what we're trying to do with the city. They're not having, they haven't had, any problems with anything. So I think that they, and you're right, some of the things that you brought up about the way that they were after they got in certainly were valid. But I think that, renewing it was, in my opinion, will be a good thing. But you just said something about not creating, we gotta be careful of what you put in there. Right next door, you have babies, and creating competition for them. And then there are, just a few minutes ago, one of my commissioners said, competition is good. So is it good or is it not good? So if you don't want to put something in there that will create competition for the next door neighbor, then maybe competition isn't all that good. Maybe the current people should be given, some considerations.
I do think the competition is good. I'm going back to what we originally talked about in our discussions 10 years ago, which was we didn't necessarily want to put in something that would be a full-fledged restaurant that would compete with that. We want to take away from the two that were there already. I think now we're already getting that. I do think the cafe pulls away from the two that are there. We might as well make it and we need to look at it from a standpoint. We are right now in the business of leasing that property. So we need to make sure we have the best deal and be a little less interested in are we hurting those other two businesses? And look at the fact that let's put a competitive lease out there that somebody else going to make. I think there is enough money. I think there's enough people that are coming to the beach and everybody's putting a good establishment there. Not saying that we don't have one there now. I think they all complement each other. I think they add to the beach. You look at what other cities have done. They're doing it and they're doing it well. And I don't think there is that issue of, well, competition is a bad thing. I think it's good. I think we need to open up the playing field. They complained about, well, we don't have this, we don't have that, but they knew that going into the space. And other business people knew that that wasn't an option, so they chose not to bid on it. So that's why I always said, well, it was never fair for them to get there and say, yeah, no, we can do this. And then get in and say, well, we can't do it because we need this, and this. Well, the rules were when that's all. I think, but this gives them an opportunity. The worst case scenario, in my opinion, is we get the same restaurant that's there now. And they just have the ability to have the outside seating they've always wanted, the ability to have alcohol sales that allows them to compete with others and probably isn't the business model they wanted initially. That's the worst case scenario. The best case scenario is we have other restaurants worse than that. We look at some of the establishments that have gone up and down the coast here. And that is a prime location. We knew it back then. Bad time when we were there 10 years ago, but we knew that that's a prime location. And we have a fantastic beach. We have the best beach in South Florida. So I think by opening up competition, you're going to find stuff that you never dreamed you could. That's what I'm hopeful for. That's the best case scenario. Worst case is we get the same good vendor we have there now, and they get the ability to expand their business. So I don't want to just hand it to them. Let them earn it. I think everybody else is going to have to come in and impress us and see what we have. It's kind of the scenario. I look at what we did with the research part. We were going to go with somebody who was kind of already next door that had a deal and wanted to change it. And we said, no, let's go out on the market. We have a phenomenal thing. We just approved that. So I think by doing that, we're giving the city a better opportunity. It doesn't exist now. That's my opinion. Mr. Parnas?
Yeah, you remember Charlie's Crab on the other side of the cove?
Yeah.
That was a great restaurant.
Right.
It died for whatever reason. Competition, other seafood places open, lack of business, whatever. I enjoyed that that restaurant most in Deerfield Beach 20 years ago. My family would come down from New York, gotta go to Charlie's Crab. Never was in the Cove. We always went to Charlie's Crab. And one day, it was gone. Just gone. That's the restaurant business. Everybody has a dream. My place is gonna work. Okay? And they spend a lot of money putting up a restaurant, fixing it up, putting equipment in, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. But everybody has a dream. I know I had mine. I opened a club in New York against a lot of competition, and we succeeded. We were lucky. So I think the city would benefit from opening up, because I don't think Deerfield has enough good restaurants, in my opinion. I know on the west side, we have very few good restaurants. Most of them are by the beach. I was very happy, for instance, when Steakhouse came from 18th Street to Hillsborough Boulevard. That place is jammed. It's hard to get a table at certain times of day there. The Outback. I'd like to see more good restaurants open up in Deerfield. It invites tourists. It helps people who want to eat out not go to the same place all the time. And it offers a variety. And that's good for business. I say we go out and see what the marketplace, maybe nobody will want it. And then maybe 50 people want it. And then we'll see what kind of a desirable location it is, the people who want to do it and what they're going to submit, what they want to do with it. And then we can make a decision. But to say, nah, let's not bother, let's just renew a lease. No, I don't think we owe the people there preference when it comes to what's best for the city. I think we won't know that unless we go out and look at the market and see what wants to come in and grow Deerfield Beach with another idea. Then we can make a decision whether we think it's good or bad.
Thank you, Commissioner. Vice Mayor?
Just to the mayor's point, the current vendor would not have the opportunity to utilize those extra spaces if we just remove this. So in order for them to have that opportunity, we have to put it out for bid and allow them to bid. And as you know, was rightly pointed out, when they originally were awarded the bid, they were given certain parameters. They've expanded those parameters tremendously to the benefit of them and to the benefit of the locations. I think it looks great. I think the original vision 10 years ago, it's much better than what that vision was. I really like what they've done for the place. But I think putting it out for bid is the right thing to do. My only aversion to liquor sales is again, the vendor that we do get. There are certain vendors like JB's on the New Joe Oceans 1, 2, 3, where it seems to be a better operation where people are just hanging out and plus the price of liquor. I don't know. So I think if we have the right vendor in there, I would not be opposed to that either. I think this is a great opportunity for us to improve that area. And its prime location, it's probably one of the prime locations on our beach. And I think it's definitely underutilized.
Can I make one more point before we
Okay.
make it? Having liquor in a restaurant is not the same thing as having a bar. A bar primarily sells liquor and people hang out there for various reasons. A restaurant that serves liquor at tables is not the same thing. So whether or not you have a family restaurant, I go to family restaurants where they serve alcohol and children are sitting at the tables. I don't see that as a problem.
Cracker Barrels now, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
And that is certainly a family restaurant.
I know, I hope we've given you enough direction. I know this is just a discussion by the board. We can certainly have some decisions to make, but one point that was made that probably needs to be talked about a little bit more as we look forward to how you're going to present this to us in the future is the point about parking as we expand that and what the impact could be to Commissioner President.
Certainly look at that, Mayor, and just if I could make just a couple points. Obviously, I think I have enough direction to finalize an RFP that will go out. And generally speaking, I think the commission as a body is amenable to these ideas. And so we'll of course include that. I got some feedback from you, Mayor, in terms of the observation deck, and maybe I could speak with you about some creative ways that we can preserve the public use of that and the public's to ensure that there is that public access and the times in which we can reserve that for ourselves and ensure that the public has it as a regular basis. So, but these are all things that we can tweak as we go along and understand a little bit about how the restaurateur envisions the use of that as well. I think it's important to see that too. Obviously, with the liquor sales, I understand some of your concerns. I think that's going to highly weigh on the quality of the restaurateur who we have. If they're coming out with 3-for-1 specials and those sorts of things, I think we know what we're probably getting into. That's what we don't necessarily want to see. Of course, I want to mention also that, since this is a city facility, we have certain enforcement mechanisms for anything that we put in place, right? And so we can ensure that we have these mechanisms within a final lease agreement with any restaurant we have. Additionally, this is the direction I'm getting from the commission today. 4 months from now, it might be a little bit different, right? You may give this some, I know this is the initial time we're talking about this. So there may be some things that happen and you may have a different opinion down the road. So one of the things that I want to make sure I put in this RFP is, as we do put these components in there, to understand from the restaurateurs which one of these are deal breakers and how would this really affect maybe what they're presenting to us, not just in terms of the restaurant, but in terms of the revenue as well. So in other words, if the city took out the right of the observation deck, what is that? How does that change your proposal? Or would you remove yourself from the process? So what do these things look like? I think it's something that we need to look at and understand as we move forward. And but I think I did get enough direction collectively to understand how to prepare the RFP.
So City Attorney, I have a question for you on that. This isn't just a discussion that we're having here. It sounds like based on discussion, we're moving forward in a certain direction, even though we haven't kind of taken a vote on that. When it comes forward in the future for the public to have the opportunity to digest it, vote on this, or give us their input on it. Is it the foregone conclusion that we're going out to RFP right now based on this discussion, or is it a matter of when that comes up, the public can come forward and say, we don't want you to go out for RFP? How does that work?
Okay, so the lease will expire unless it's renewed. I think likely the city manager has the ability to execute a renewal. I think he's getting your input on whether to do that or not, or whether to go out for an RFP. Generally, you don't approve the RFP documents before they go out, but I think you're giving him some general input and direction in that regard. But ultimately, before any lease is going to get approved with any other vendor, it's going to go to an evaluation committee. They're going to make a recommendation to you. There's going to be a public, a hearing before you, so the public can give their input in terms of what's being presented before you would ultimately vote on any new lease with a new restaurateur.
Okay, so basically we don't have to open it up right now. We're okay with giving general direction. That discussion will happen another time.
That's correct.
Can I ask a question to the city manager?
Very briefly.
Okay, very briefly. I know one of the restaurants, I don't know if it's JB or one of the others on the beach there, has valet parking. Do you know if they have a deal with the parking garage that Jim Roseberry and his partner owns?
All places do. I think you don't have the proper.
I'm sorry?
All places do.
They
They
do.
don't have the proper.
They don't have enough parking, so they have valet parking.
Yes.
They park them somewhere. Okay. So then, that may be information that a restaurateur interested would have to have.
We'll be sure to include that.
Thank you. Okay, unless there's any comments from the board, we're looking for adjournment.
Move to adjourn.
Second. We have a motion, and a second. Before we close everything, I want to wish everyone happy holidays, safe holidays. Thank you. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Captain Hobstein to the front, Captain Hobstein to the front.
So you made it through it. We both survived. Right out. Yeah, it's rare that I have mine. All right.
Did you?
Dog ate it, I swear it's there. They can just eat on it.
See my email regarding.
I replied.
You replied?
Thoroughly.
What did you say?
Adequately, sir.
Chris.
Thoroughly researched the matter.
Basic information.
Thank you very much.
Gosh,
I almost hate the room. It's such a beautifully handcrafted response. Perfect. I almost want to read it to verbatim. It's so.